Hello and welcome to Breaking Bread with Rivaaj Maharaj, where nothing is off the table. I'm sorry for the informal setting, however, I'm currently away from my place where I usually do my recording in London, so I guess this will have to make do, and I'm trying out this new mic that I've got as well for traveling, so I hope it all pans out. Nevertheless, for today's episode, I wanted to talk on the Australian government's refusal to repatriate former ISIS family members and their kids to Australia. So without further ado, let's get into it. There's been a huge hue and cry in the media recently about the Australian Prime Minister Albanese and his refusal to repatriate family members of ISIS fighters that went over to Syria to join ISIS and fight for the jihad, the ISIS jihad that was being waged in Syria.
ISIS brides trying to return to Australia aren't giving up this morning, despite the PM refusing to support their repatriation from Syria. To discuss, we're joined by former Department of Immigration senior official Abdul Rizvi in Sydney.
I must say, for me, it's come as a huge surprise because of all the governments in the world that were to take this stance, I really did not expect it to come from Australia. Given everything that happened regarding the 7th of October attacks as well as the Bondi Beach attacks.
Joining us live now is the Deputy Prime Minister and the Defence Minister, Richard Marles. Richard, thank you so much for your time this morning under the most trying of circumstances. If a government's primary job, its first job, is to protect its citizens, have you failed the Jewish community?
Well, certainly I understand that people within the Jewish community, but actually people across Australia, will have a sense that what occurred on Sunday night is shattering to people's sense of security. And I also understand that for people in the Jewish community for a long time, they've not felt secure. And it is really important that we are doing everything within our power to stamp out the scourge of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is at the heart of this, and it's really important that we are doing everything in our power to stamp it out.
Did you fail them?
Well, we have been calling out anti-Semitism. Obviously, we commissioned the Siegel report, and we are busy implementing it. We have criminalised more forms of hate speech than have ever happened before. We've criminalised the Nazi salute doxing. We're working with our universities to make them safer for Jewish students. But not for a moment would I suggest that the work is complete. This is not something which is done in the course of a day or a week or a month. This is a long-term project where we need to be ensuring that the Jewish community feels safe, that every Australian feels safe, and that we stamp out the scourge of anti-Semitism in this country, and we are utterly committed to doing that.
So I want to introduce you to the Australian Greens Party. These are the radical left party of Australian politics. They're like AOC squads, but without the charm. And for the last 2 years, they have downplayed the threat of anti-Semitism, attended pro-Palestine marches, and turned our parliament into a backdrop for their anti-Israel stance. But now that Jews have been massacred, they need to be front and centre of the morning. Marine Faruqi, a senator who has worn a keffiyeh to parliament and once had to delete a social media post from a pro-Palestine march because she was posing next to a sign with a vile message on it, felt it was the right thing to do to attend the memorial. Do you reckon the Jewish community needed to see her? Someone who has angered them so much the last couple of years? Well, she didn't give them a choice. She went anyway. And luckily, my Sky News colleague Sharry Markson and a few vocal members of the public had a few questions for her.
It's Sharry Markson here from Sky News. Haven't you only fueled the anti-Semitism crisis by your aggressive rhetoric over the past 2 years?
We are here today to mourn all those who have been unforgivable. We are here mourning and giving respect to the community.
You have been a pro-Palestinian protests where they have
Shame
called
on you.
for intifada.
Blood's on your hands.
You have been
Shame
at
on you.
pro-Palestinian protests
You're a disgrace.
where there have been calls for intifada and death to the IDF. How does this lead to anything else other than the terror attack that we saw here last night?
We are here today to give respect.
Do you regret being at those pro-Palestinian protests that have only fueled anti-Semitism?
Today is about heart and humanity for those who have lost their loved ones, for those who have been injured by this.
Are you surprised? You can't possibly be surprised that your actions have been among those that have led to this. Would you like to apologise to the Jewish community?
I am here to provide support for the Jewish community and everyone else
Would you like to apologise?
who has suffered what has happened here yesterday. That's what I'm
What do you
here
have to say? What's ridiculous?
Today is a day for grieving, not for politics.
We shouldn't be grieving. We shouldn't be grieving. You have stood at pro-Palestinian protests where there have been calls for death to Jews.
At all. Members of the Jewish community here today. It's not at all.
I really did not anticipate this type of a reaction coming from the current Australian regime. I really thought that they would double down and bring over not only their own citizens, but even other citizens that from other countries that had gone over to fight on behalf of ISIS. And it's simply because, you know, when you look at the policy enactment and the manner in which the Jewish community of Australia was treated by, you know, their government, the Australian government, as well as, you know, the various police services, and that in Australia, as October 7th unfolded and subsequent Israel, retaliation on Gaza, it really was something I did not anticipate happening. Nevertheless, I've got an article here from DW News that I'm going to keep referring to, and let's have a look at what they say. The heading of the article is Australia rules out repatriating citizens from Syrian camp. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese refused help for Australians linked to suspected IS fighters who are trying to return home from Syria's Rivaaj detention camp. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said his government wouldn't repatriate Australian citizens held for years in a Syrian camp. Now, for me, I think this is bang on the nail. I believe that if you are somebody that sympathizes with IS and their views, and you take the stance of leaving your home country, going over to Syria or wherever in the world they are waging their jihad war, and you make an active decision to engage in supporting them and helping them and joining them further their cause, then you have that right to do so. However, when things go south and it's looking really dangerous for you on the other end, I think at that point the realization needs to dawn on you that you have forfeited everything that you were allowed and that you were given in the West, and your move over to ISIS and their war and becoming a member of them means that it comes with certain consequences and circumstances that you have to then live with. So if you've made a choice to go over and help behead and, you know, sexually assault and molest and murder and keep slaves, then I think when things become difficult for you, you have no recourse to coming back to the country of your birth or the country that had given you refugee status, because you made a decision to go over and fight for a cause. So I think that you should remain there. Not that when things get bad, you then decide to throw the towel in and then come back here as if nothing happened, because you're not going over there for a holiday. You know, you're going to actively participate in warfare against innocent people. You know, tell that to the Yazidis that were being massacred by ISIS. You know, tell them that you now want to come back to Australia or the UK or Germany, and you want to assimilate back into society as if nothing happened, and you want, or alternatively, you want to be kept in a European or a Western prison at the expense of the taxpayer. I certainly do not think that you deserve that. I think that when you make your bed, you lie in it. So the article further goes on to say that Roj detention camp in northeastern Syria holds families of militants suspected of having links to the so-called Islamic State group IS. Now again, some might argue that, these men or these women have gone over, they were concubines or they were spouses, and then the kids were born in there.
We're joined by former Department of Immigration senior official Abul Rizvi in Sydney. Abul, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Look, can you legally shut the door on the ISIS brides?
Look, before I go into that, Carl, I should say a couple of things. Firstly, what these people did was absolutely abhorrent, and they should face the full consequences of the law. Having said that, they have legal rights. And I think it's important that in a country of laws, in a country where respect for the rule of law is important, we do not just kick their legal rights down the road, as many politicians appear to be keen to do.
Listen, if you're adult enough to make a decision that you want to go over and fight a war on behalf of somebody's cause, and you then decide that you want to have kids, knowing full well the consequences of bringing kids into the world in that environment, I don't think it should become the duty of people on the other end of the world to then have to look after or shell out their hard-earned money to keep you and your family either safe or in a prison. You made a choice to go over and fight there. You made a choice to have kids there. That's where you live now. You can live there, you can die there, it's immaterial to the rest of the world. Because when you went there to join and help in any form where innocent civilians were being massacred, I don't think you have any legal recourse in the country that you left. It's as simple as that. The article further goes on to say, and it's a quotation by the Australian Prime Minister, and he says, "We have a very firm view that we won't be providing assistance or repatriation," Albanese told the national broadcaster ABC on Tuesday. "We have no sympathy, frankly, for people who have travelled overseas in order to participate in what was an attempt to establish a caliphate, to undermine and destroy our way of life," he said. "It is unfortunate that children are impacted by this as well, but we are not providing any support." And you know what? The man is right. He deserves 100 points for that because he is 100% correct. As an adult, you made a decision. As a child, you made a decision. It's immaterial. You made a decision to go over there and participate in something that is contrary to the value system of the place from which you left. Now when things get tough, you shouldn't have the option of having to just abandon that cause and come over and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake." Because this is not like you buying the wrong loaf of bread in a supermarket or taking a wrong turn down a road. It's not that type of mistake. This is a life or death mistake for a lot of people that were and are still kept in slavery, that were murdered. You've caused harm and hurt and pain to thousands of families. So I don't think you have a right to come back and then say that I've now decided to change. That right you forfeited the day you decided to leave. It's the same story with Shamima Begum. Leave her where she is. We have no need or use for her in Britain. Leave her where she is. She deserves it. If her parents are not happy, they're more than welcome to join her there. But their daughter made a decision. When it was hip, when it was cool, ISIS was the thing, that was where she went. Now, it shouldn't be up to us to have to foot the bill to bring her back here and house her here and hope and pray that she doesn't then go and want to undermine the society that extended a hand to her. When you're that kind of an ungrateful human being, you deserve everything that you get and more. I'm sure this is going to impact a lot of other Western countries because there were people from all Western countries that went over. And I'm sure that governments, especially a lot of the left-leaning governments, will do everything within their power to try and repatriate these people, even under the guise of darkness. That is to say, they will bring people in a very clandestine manner, so that their people don't know, because they know the uproar it will cause. However, I say to you, think carefully about what it is you want to do. Because I can guarantee you, when some of these people come back and then they decide to wage a jihad within your country, and it's found that you actually lied to your people and brought them in, then all hell will break loose. So I want to thank you for taking the time to spend with us. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Please remember to like, share and subscribe, as it helps us with the algorithm and it helps our channel to grow.